Hey everybody, it's Ben and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Percy Jackson and the Olympians Book 1, The Lightning Thief, written by Rick Riordan, and it's the first book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. The basic premise is that all of the gods and goddesses and monsters from the body of Greek mythology are all real, still within the Western civilization of America in the 21st century. And Zeus's Master Thunderbolt has been stolen, and he wrongfully accuses his brother Poseidon, as well as by extension Poseidon's son, our title character of Percy Jackson, of being the lightning thief. So the basic premise is Percy goes on this quest to recover the lightning bolt, return it to Zeus before the summer solstice to avert a war between the gods, and also to find out who the lightning thief actually is. So we're introduced to the character of Percy Jackson, who is a 12-year-old kid. He's troubled, he suffers from ADHD and dyslexia. He bounces around from school to school due to being expelled, partially because of his learning difficulties, but also because there have been a series of unexplainable incidents with Percy at the centre of them, so unfortunately no school will keep him on as a pupil. So he has a lot of difficulties fitting in at school, partially because of his learning difficulties, but also finding it difficult to make friends as well. We're introduced to Sally Jackson, who's Percy's mother, who's a really kind and warm-hearted and loving woman, and you find out will do pretty much anything to protect Percy, and there's a really great mother and son relationship between the two that's showcased on the part of Rick Riordan. We're introduced to Gabe, who is Sally's husband and Percy's stepfather, who is a repugnant excuse for a human being and an all-around douchebag. We're introduced to Percy's best friend Grover, who it turns out has a fair few secrets of his own and knows a lot more than he lets on in terms of who Percy is, and in terms of his lineage, his heritage, and his parentage, more importantly. And he's always at Percy's side whenever stuff hits the fan. And we're also introduced to another of our characters who make up our trio of protagonists later on, which I'll go into shortly. The series is written in the first person from Percy's point of view or perspective, so we see the stories unfold through Percy's eyes, and it's almost as if Percy is either writing a diary or a journal entry or narrating the stories, as well as, he could just as easily be telling a group of his friends about his latest adventures, around a campfire, eating, toasted marshmallows. So it's sort of the narrated story that we are treated to in the pages of the Percy Jackson series. So unfortunately, a field trip to the Greek exhibit at a museum goes horribly wrong, and it results in Percy being discovered and nearly skewered by one of the members of the Furies, or the Kindly Ones. So this then prompts Grover, Sally and Percy to flee to a place called Camp Half-Blood, which we find out is a home, safe haven and training ground for all demigods to become heroes, and occasionally being allowed to undertake quests for the Greek gods. We find out that a demigod is half mortal, half god, which happens when a Greek god consummates a relationship with a mortal woman. So we find out that Percy, as well as all of the members of Camp Half-Blood, save for the satyrs and other various creatures from Greek mythology, are all half-bloods, which, as I've said, are half mortal, half god. So we find out that after World War II, the big three, which are the brothers, which are Zeus, Poseidon and Hades, agree not to have any more children, but unfortunately for Percy, he's actually a violation on the part of his father Poseidon against not having any more children, because he met Sally Jackson and seemingly, had Percy with her, and he hasn't known his father all his life. He had to leave. So we're introduced to the rules of the universe, as well as the fact that monsters can't be killed, they can only be dispelled or temporarily taken out of commission before they heal and seemingly return, whether that be days, weeks, months, or even years later in some cases. We're introduced to the faculty of Camp Half-Blood, which consists of Chiron, who's a centaur and a trainer of heroes, Mr. D or Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, and Luke Castellan, who is the camp counselor. I have to say there's a really great scene early on in the book where Percy's just coming into his abilities and he's just being made aware of all of the, the gods, goddesses and monsters from Greek mythology are all real. He's also just coming to terms with the fact that he has abilities of his own, where he's set upon by a girl by the name of Clarice LaRue, who is the daughter of Ares, and a couple of her bully cronies, and he is pushed into the lake, but then his demigod abilities awaken and he defeats them all with relative ease shortly before breaking Clarice's spear and basically bonking her on the nose with the hilt of his sword, which she doesn't take too kindly to. And we find out that then, or there and then, when Percy goes back into the water, that he is determined to be the son of Poseidon. So over the course of the story, we have Percy, Annabeth and Grover going on a quest to recover the Master Bolt and find out who the Lightning Thief is. The second of our trio of main characters, Annabeth Chase, is the daughter of Athena. She's very well versed in Greek mythology as well as Greek architecture, Greek philosophy, and she's also really great in terms of battle strategy, and she is a very, very competent fighter. But she's also a little bit of a know-it-all, and she can be a little bit stubborn and quite, boisterous in a sense, whereby, she'll call Percy impossible and Percy will say something back, so she's constantly retorting to Percy's sort of angry, returned banter and insults. So we also find out that over the millennia, the Western civilization of America has changed, but the significant sites in Greek mythology have merely come to reside elsewhere. For example, Olympus is located over the top of the Empire State Building in New York, and the underworld is actually located, or the entrance to the underworld is located in Los Angeles. I have to say there's some really great explanations and engrossing explanations at that of Greek mythology, while Rick Riordan also manages to put his own unique spin on the tales of Greek mythology within the Percy Jackson universe, particularly early on and even more so later on in the later books in the series. So we have the three heroes going on the quest, and over the course of their adventure, a friendship develops between the three of them. Over the course of the adventure, the action scenes in this are really well done, and they are really fluid in their execution and in their motion, which again is another prop I have to give Rick Riordan from a writing point of view. You have Percy going up against the Hydra and Medusa, as well as a few others. We also have our trio running into some familiar faces from Greek mythology, namely Charon the ferryman for the underworld, Persephone, Hades' wife, Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of the underworld, and Ares, the god of war. Ares is the primary antagonist in this particular book, in The Lightning Thief, and he is, he's incredibly mean, he's vain, he's arrogant, he's fiendish, he's just pretty much not the worst of the worst, but he's definitely a guy that you instantly dislike and you instantly want him to get what he has come into him. And I have to say, my favourite scene in The Lightning Thief has to be the fight scene, or the throwdown between Percy and Ares, whereby Percy actually utilises his swordsmanship skills as well as utilising and coming into his own a little bit more with his demigod abilities, being able to control water, being the son of Poseidon, and he actually uses this to give himself an advantage over Ares before seemingly humiliating and besting Ares in single combat. So that was a really great scene for the character of Percy. He has a lot of attitude to him, and he's more than capable and willing to easily talk back to and pretty much defy Ares, even though he has this fearsome reputation being the god of war. But Percy just tells him exactly what he thinks of him and just doesn't make any qualms about, pretty much telling Ares where to go before besting him in a fight between the two of them. This book is a really fast-paced read with non-stop action. There's epic grand-scale adventure, there's great action scenes, there's really cool ties to Greek mythology with Rick Riordan, as I said, putting his own unique spin on the events of the Greek myths. You have, callbacks to Perseus going up against Medusa, you have Hercules going up against the Hydra, as well as the myth of the Lotus Eaters. All the characters that are introduced, they're all great, they're all really well fleshed out, and they all have their own unique voices and personalities. The relationships between the characters are all really well executed, they're all three-dimensional, they all feel real, and they all grow and develop over the course of the series, which again is another testament to just how great and stellar Rick Riordan's writing is. If you're a fan of Greek mythology, if you're a fan of book series that start off small and slowly snowball into epic grand scale adventures, for example like the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling, or if you're a fan of Greek mythology, or if you're into just a really great fantastical world with great three-dimensional multi-layered characters with their own unique voices and personalities and three-dimensional relationships, I cannot recommend Percy Jackson and the Olympians highly enough. This is a fantastic first book, and I cannot recommend Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief highly enough, and I cannot wait to share my thoughts with you guys on the rest of the series. Thank you everyone for watching, hope you all enjoyed. As always, feel free to leave a comment, like, dislike, and leave a comment. Feel free to subscribe if you're new to my channel and you'd like to see more videos. And until next time, this is Gambit896 signing off, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.